right, everyone. Welcome, welcome. My name is Linda Furtado. I'm Director of Spirituality and Arts here at the Scarritt Bennett Center. We're here in the Harambee, the historic Harambee Auditorium on the campus here at Scarritt Bennett, and I have with me our poet for the evening, and I'll read you a little bit about Donna. Donna Whitney began writing poetry more or less by accident in 2018. Her work is published in the 2021 anthology Sinew, 10 Years of Poetry in the Brew, and in the online journal Justice Unbound. She is a retired neurologist and college professor, full discourse it says, adjunct, and is an ordained Christian minister serving on the pastoral staff of Metropolitan Interdenominational Church in Nashville. Her self-published devotional readings for the National Week of Prayer for the Healing of HIV and AIDS honors the decades-long ministry of her congregation in advocacy and in service to persons living with HIV. The book was created in collaboration with Nashville artist AnDrew Morrison, whose exhibit will be featured here at Scarritt Bennett in the gallery later this summer. Stay tuned. Check the calendar on our website. You do not want to miss this opportunity. And Donna, for one last note, has 2 daughters and 2 granddaughters, all of whom are funny and brilliant and light up the world. I am blessed. We are blessed to have Donna with us here today. Donna, come on up and let's hear her poetry as you present it. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda, for the introduction and the opportunity to be here and for making Poets Corner possible month after month. One thing that you did not say, because I didn't tell you, is that in one of my many past lives, I was a dachshund. So I'm going to begin with a dachshund poem called My Best Life. And then I'll follow it with another poem from another past life, my life as a physician. My Best Life. Before the first daisy petal of light, and before the rooster's belated announcement of a new day, dawn always had her own melody. Back then, dawn song mingled with my badger dreams and called me to my 4 paws, to bark my morning prayers into the waiting east, sounding pure love into the silken ears of God. Back then, there were always dachshunds in the royal courts of Spain, and I was the most elegant of them all. Of all myselves in all my lifetimes, this was the one most richly blessed. Back then, when they leaned in close, even the most broken-hearted and mournful ones could inhale the lingering aroma of my puppyhood and be comforted, delighted, and healed. Such was my long-haired dachshund power. That was back then, before Isabella expelled the Jews, and before Columbus made his bumbling trip across the sea. That was before alarm clocks and daylight savings time messed with the music of dawn. Before Auschwitz, before Hiroshima, before Charleston, and before automatic transmission. Since then, I've had my stint as a badger and can no longer claim innocence. I've worn the quills of a porcupine, the slippers of a ballerina, and the rags of a beggar. I've hung diplomas on my wall and worn diamonds on my fingers. I've even held the other end of a leash. These days, my joy comes inside a dryer, warm, hooded sweatshirt, like the oversized, wrinkly coat, supple and sweet-smelling, that was always too big for my low-slung frame. Maybe Trayvon wanted to feel like a dachshund too. I've prayed in Hebrew, Aramaic, Urdu, and Ladino. I've recited prayers in French, Arabic, Hindi, and Italian. If God listened to any of it, I'd be surprised, but who knows? If I were God, I'd lie awake all night waiting for the prayer sounds of a dachshund to soothe my grieving God ears, to soothe my grieving ears. So that's one past life. And my opinion, by the way, I have my own classification of dogs. There are dachshunds and there are other dogs. That's it. And I was a dachshund. This poem is called House Call. Funny what you remember and what you don't. I remember Sanjeev. I don't remember who was president or what the season was. Anyway, it was Los Angeles, so who could know, much less recall. I remember Sanjeev, though I don't remember leaving my house, whether I choked back tears that day or rolled my eyes or just went numb, dodging the perpetual scowl of an anger-soaked man. But I remember Sanjeev. I remember what I was wearing. I always remember clothes. In those days, I wore suits with pencil skirts, tight but not too tight, and jackets, double-breasted like me. Sartorial apology for trespassing in a girls' keep-out profession and those damned high heels. I remember Sanjeev's mom, barefoot in her jewels and fuchsia sari. She was not glad to see me. Her sorrow was turning already to bile and bitterness, mingled with disappointment and shame. I didn't give Sanjeev his illness, only his diagnosis. But when your beautiful boy is dying, these things get tangled up together. I knew that. I remember Sanjeev, the boy who vacuumed up details out of every corner of a situation and turned them over for meaning, like a 19th century naturalist caressing a day's haul of specimens. Sanjeev's bemused eye watched the run in my stocking open up and slither from knee to ankle as I bent myself to the edge of his bed. And then he looked at my hand and asked, "What's that?" "What's that" was not my mother's diamond ring, the one that Daddy made for her, the one that sparkles my days even now. Not the diamond, but a chunk of gaudy plastic oversized in neon blue, its shank thickly separating my fingers. I remember when Sanjeev asked, "What's that?" and I answered, "Party favor from my little girl's birthday," and he said, "Oh." The forlorn syllable rose on a wave of despair from that boy's rib-etched chest. "Oh," he said, "my mom would never wear something like that." And there we were, a boy who had fallen drastically short of expectations and a woman who had fulfilled too many. Sanjeev's mom brought tea, grudgingly it seemed. Someone, no doubt, was president and the season was late morning. We drank the tea and Sanjeev held my hand. The blue-ring daughter avoids me now. Now I don't wear suits or choke back tears or go numb. Now and then I still roll my eyes. They say you can hear it when I do. I live alone, no scowls, no anger, and I remember Sanjeev. He was a beautiful boy. Now, picking up on last month's Poets' Corner, I have several poems related to trauma and recovery from trauma. And after those, I have some love poems. The first of this group is a Nashville poem. It's called Covenant. Oh my God, it happened here. Well, yeah, it happened here. Everything happens here. This is the It City. Auschwitz happened here. Hiroshima happened here. Charleston, Charlottesville, Rosewood, Black Wall Street, Fukushima, Columbine, Club Q, and Sandy Hook happened here. Uvalde happened here. They all happened here. The Nakba happened here. It's still happening here. Everything happens here. Trayvon, Michael, Brianna, Philando, George, they were all killed here. Nobody can breathe here. Everywhere is here, and nobody can breathe. We live here with our addresses on the mailbox, but you can't really say we're alive because we can't breathe here. Everything happens here. Now, I also am interested in whales, not just dachshunds. So this poem is called The Existence of Whales. A whale cloud appears in the sky over Westmead. The dog-walking woman alerts the text thread. Whale-crazed sisters respond with exclamation points and smiles. A sisterhood of old women who love each other and text all day, woven together this day by love of whales. The woman puts on her whale nightie, tucks herself under the quilt in her blue bedroom on this last night of summer. The waning crescent will rise behind clouds unseen. The woman dreams deep sea dreams. The dog snores on his cushion, displaced from the bed by one who sleeps in her own bed miles away. The woman doesn't hear the dog any more than she sees the moon, dreaming her deep sea dreams. Morning brings autumn, morning brings news. 200 pilot whales beached in Tasmania. 200 whales, 200 whales, 200 whales. This is a lament for every whale who ever met a harpoon. This is a lament for every baleen turned into corset. This is a lament for every ounce of spermaceti turned into lamplight. This is a lament for every ton of blubber turned into margarine. This is a lament for every chunk of whale flesh turned into chewing gum, pet food, and typewriter ribbon. For all the whales ear-blasted to death by Navy sonar, this is a lament. This is a lament, this is a lament, this is a lament. And you, God, you, the God of the sun-dazzled white whale cloud, you, the God of old women who love each other, you, God of the dreaming woman, the snoring dog, the absent lover, you, where were you when the whales washed up? Are you not the God of the humpback, God of the blue, God of the right, God of the beluga, God of the gray, God of the 3 million slaughtered? Do you not know that the existence of whales is not to be taken for granted? And the God of all whales, real and imaginary, whispers, I know, and weeps. This next one is sort of a lament. It's called Body. My body is a long-lost friend. My body is a long-lost friend. My body is a long-lost friend. You might think lost? Lose your mind maybe, but surely not your body. Nonetheless, my body is a long-lost friend. I lost her somewhere between French verbs and differential equations. I lost her on the pages of fashion magazines. I lost her on nights on call in the ICU. I swear I spent whole nights and days without her and never even thought to wonder where she went. She came back to me sometimes. I remember finding her once under the stars in Malibu, and another time at the end of a 10-mile run. There she was, sweating, panting, grinning. See, I did this thing for you, for you. My body is a long-lost friend. I lost her at the makeup counter, although sometimes I found her there. I lost her in dogma that blamed her for everything from rape to incest to impotence to traffic jams. And after the abortion, she just got up and walked off for good. My body is a long-lost friend. I lost her for years in the house of a man who couldn't love me, and I even lost her in the tender, tattooed arms of one who did. I almost lost her forever when I forgot to feed her for a year, but she came back. She came back. She never said where she'd been, someplace nice, I hope, or how she found me. She has her secrets. But lately, she whispers in our ears that only we can hear. And she is right here in the rise and fall of breathing, right here in the itch of mosquito bites, right here in the curve of hips, present in hands that touch and hold and love, present in tears and blood and snot and sweat, present in the present. My body is a long-lost friend. And how are we doing for time? Next we have Serpent 1 and Serpent 2. So, Serpent 1. Listen, you. Living in my house don't make you my pet. So what if you swam up out of your bucket of blood to lie coiled in my amygdala, ready to pounce? You flutter your fangs in fake friendly greeting, but your hi there wave means absolutely nothing to me. You spring on me at the damnedest times. You spring when the wind blows, you spring when it doesn't. You spring from neon lights and you spring from shadows. So go ahead, pounce, I dare you. Pounce on my mat of lavender. Your feet might smell like mine, if you had feet. Pounce on my prayers, you might see heaven. Pounce on my trampoline of all-night love. No telling where you'll land. I'm flexible. Slide over my hard-earned sweat. See how that salty anointing covers me, safe from snaky harm. You want to know where to pounce? Pounce on the Star-Spangled Banner and break its evil stanzas to pieces. Pounce on the guns and chains and walls and cages and shatter them all. Know this, serpent, serpent, know this. Pounce on me if you want, but know this, I won't break. Serpent 2. This is not a marriage proposal. There will be no diamonds, no gold. Really, I'm not even sure this is an offer of friendship. The fact is, I don't like you. But I know this much. I'm tired of hating you. So tired. I can't weep you away, not even with a torrent of tears, even the tears that God collects in God's own vial, even the tears I could borrow from the woman at the feet of Jesus, and I'm sure I could borrow them, but I can't weep you away. Neither can I laugh you off, not even with the purest laughter, even the laughter that comes from the ancestors' wells, even the laughter born of the love in my belly. And I laugh often and well these days, so often, so well, but I cannot laugh you off. So, serpent, I am stuck with you. I admit I even missed you when it seemed as if you had left. Life without you felt all askew. Living without you, I was a balloon without a string. I admit I was relieved to discover you had only been on vacation. Everyone needs a break. Maybe you are as tired of me as I am tired of you. Maybe you need me as much as I need you. I never wanted you. I never wanted to hate you, and I never wanted to love you. But now I hate you, and now I love you, and now I need you. Talk about an oh shit situation. Still, this is not a marriage proposal, but reality wins. You're not my friend, but there's no friendship without you. You're not my lover, but there's no love without you. This is not a marriage proposal, but what else can I do? I accept. Another trauma poem. I didn't realize I'd written so many. This one is called Suzuki. When my volcano of grief let loose its streams of snot and tears, I stumbled my way to the old car. It was a Suzuki. You know, they don't sell them anymore in the USA, and that's a shame. And this was before mine failed inspection. So I could sit there unsuspecting, not knowing our parting was imminent, and take refuge behind the wheel on level 3 of the greasy parking structure. That was where I screamed and shook so hard it rocked the car. With shredded clothes and torn flesh and a heart as broken as any heart anywhere, the driver's seat of a parked red Suzuki is the very lap of God. I drive a Volvo now. It has heated seats and even a warmable steering wheel, which is nice on November mornings. Sometimes I still reach for the clutch of that 5-speed Suzuki stick shift, but I drive a Volvo now. It shifts gears all by itself. All I do behind the wheel is steer and sing along with the radio. We're coming into the recovery phase of the trauma poems. 5 years later. There's no blood to see, not anymore on this sidewalk, but on an August day when the sun scorches the pavement and no rain has come, I can smell it. Like smoke maybe, or iron, back where my nose becomes my throat, hot there and dry. I don't mind. It was my blood after all. I had to shed it to see it, shed it to touch it, shed it to taste it, shed it to love it. You can barely see the scar now, but with the whisper of fingertips, you can feel the little wavy seam in the flesh, a miracle. And this one is called Rescue Dog, or Charo the Great. That's my dog, Charo. And he was pretty badly traumatized when he came to me. He's a dachshund mix. Yeah. Rescue Dog. His tail rests in the arch of my foot. His chin rests on my leg. He peed and pooped outside this morning. He chased a stick and licked my face. The past is not erased, not his and no, not mine. But the sun is warm on the deck and our hearts are beating, beating, beating. And this one is for Charo too, also known as Charito. It's called Dreams. REM sleep must have delivered new squirrels to the backyard of his dreams. I can tell from the staccato of his paws and his choppy snores. From the sweat soaking my nightie, I can tell I've been in that kitchen again, smashing china to save my life. The world's best dog curls into the bend of my knee. I need to pee, but if I move, he'll lose his squirrels, which would break my heart, so I curl my toes and hold it. The moon delivers hijacked sunshine into the room, and I leave the kitchen behind. I am here now, with dog and moonlight, full bladder and cramping toes. I am here. And then, we had Suzuki. Now we come into a couple more automotive poems.
I totally am going to be looking for Suzuki's now.
You see some now and then. And I miss mine. It was a great car, but had to let it go. This is called Volvo. Damn, that was fun when you hugged those curves outside Chattanooga on I-24, and we cranked up Stevie Wonder, Saturn, Sir Duke, Sharia Moore. Remember how we wore out that Marvin Gaye CD? How I couldn't sing and you didn't care? Let's Get It On, Mercy Me, The Ecology, sunroof open to the autumn air. Remember when I scraped your rims on the curb and you didn't complain? Remember the flirty car wash guy and how Nashville drivers drive in the rain? Thanks for never saying, don't cry, and thanks for the times you didn't lie. You never said I'd be all right, you just said, let's take a ride. Thanks for holding my prayers and Ms. Doris's spilled communion wine. Thanks for the backup camera and the heated seats. Thanks for being a friend of mine. And the next one is called Prayer for a Honda. My best friend sold, just about a year ago, finally sold her Honda that she had bought in 1996. And that was an emotional moment. We just spoke on the phone this morning about that incident. So this is called Prayer for a Honda. Mehmet closed his cafe. Where will I buy baklava now? Joseph moved to Seattle, so who will mix my mojitos? And now Denise has traded in her Honda. I pray for Mehmet and Joseph, but I don't pray for cars, not usually. But who will drive the old Honda now? I pray for a safe driver, one who won't rev the engine or spill coffee on the seats, one who absolutely won't smoke. a driver who always signals to change lanes and checks both mirrors. Is it wrong to thank God for cars, for old cars that just keep on going? Probably, but God won't mind, because every prayer for that old car is a prayer for my old friend, the one who was safe behind the wheel all those years, who grew older, wiser, more beautiful, even as the car only grew old. Amen. And continuing more or less with the automotive transport theme, this is called Om. Om. Her whistle must be the train's Om, a sacred vibration to move the indwelling spirits of mechanical things, lawnmowers and kids' wind-up toys, my old white Volvo and older red Suzuki and Denise's Honda. Lord, a car that old has to have a soul. There's no other explanation for such longevity. Every election, somebody rants about the soul of the nation, and then we forget about soul for another 4 years. Easy to forget, being invisible and all. You can't run it up a flagpole or take it for a walk on a leash. The 2 a.m. train was the one that killed that boy a few years back. I prefer to sleep through it. The whistle rattles my windows, but not my dreams. Only the lawnmowers, wind-up toys, and aging cars bother to listen. They have no choice. A guy called Lucky rides the rails, lost a finger that way. Another guy lost his life. Lucky's wife needs insulin bad. I slip him $20. The train whistle blows. The soul of the nation does not stir. And now we have love poems, poems that I've written for family members, for friends, for lovers. And this first one is for my friend Joseph, written after he sent me a very disturbing text message. It's called Soy Lecithin. Lecithin is a hard word to pronounce, and I don't like words that are hard to pronounce, like ophthalmologist and oophorectomy and asphyxiation. Lecithin challenges the tongue, and right there, that should have been enough to warn me off. A text message about lecithin, soy lecithin no less, is meant to be deleted without reading. I know that now, but in the moment I read on ahead about a craft cocktail made with gin and lemon juice and simple syrup, and maybe something else that turns it pink like in the picture, and finished with soy lecithin. Perfectly good gin, mind you, topped off with soy lecithin. Soy lecithin to create foam. Why does perfectly good gin require foam? Foam is for beer, right? I've always been one to let curiosity overwhelm disgust. Surely this is a character flaw. But it's my character flaw. And these days I pretty much love myself, pretty much. So I embrace it and I ask him, what is soy lecithin? Then I think better of it. Wait, I say, don't tell me, I prefer not to know. But he answers, because, he says, knowledge is power. Torment is his friendship style. And with my above-mentioned character flaw, I fall for it every time. So I read on, again. Lecithin, not getting any easier to pronounce. Lecithin is an emulsifier, present in more food products than you'd think. Oh, joy, mostly I cook from scratch. Mostly. Soy lecithin, presumably like non-soy lecithins, is an emulsifier. Just what I always didn't want to know. Okay, an emulsifier. I take a deep breath. I take a deep breath. Emulsifiers hold things together. But why do things need to be held together? What would happen to things like gin and lemon juice and simple syrup, if no soy lecithin came along to hold them together? Maybe soy lecithin, unlikely as it may seem, is like love, holding things together and all. What holds the nucleus of an atom together when, by all logic, it should fly apart faster than you can say lecithin way faster. Love, Mahatma Gandhi said, and love, James Lawson said, is the most powerful force in the universe. I doubted them once, but I don't doubt them anymore. So maybe love is that elusive force that binds the nucleus and keeps the world from falling apart at the seams. Surely it's not soy lecithin. Love is like salt. It doesn't change things, even though people say it changes everything. Salt is that thing in the kitchen that just lets things be more of what they already are. Jesus said, "You are the salt of the earth." Who did he mean, do you suppose? Could he have meant me, with my diamonds and pearls, my investment account, expensive car, and prime real estate? What have I ever done to let anything or anyone just be itself? Salt graces the rim when you serve a margarita. Tequila, orange liqueur, agave, and lime. Like friendship, it holds together fine without soy lecithin. The next one is for a friend of ours, Regina in Chaos, and it's called Pyx. And in case anyone is not familiar with the word Pyx, P-Y-X, it's a little container that's used to transport communion wafers. So this is called Pyx. Pyx, my favorite Scrabble word is Pyx. The P, the Y, the X, no intervening one-point tiles. Pyx. Place it on the red triple word square and voila, 45 points. Pyx, the sacramental object that conveys communion wafers to Mr. Ed in the nursing home. Insubstantial little discs marked with a cross. They get lost in his hand, so large, so old. But in his hand, so large, so old, the flimsy disc is the body, the sacred broken body, although it certainly is not bread. My favorite Scrabble word is Pyx, but my favorite word is arpeggio. Just saying it creates an arpeggio, a spoken arpeggio of enthusiastic syllables. Arpeggio, arpeggio, arpeggio. I've moaned arpeggios of lament, sharp enough to spill blood from your soul. Cried arpeggios of tears no one could hear, sung off-key arpeggios of joy into the cold autumn sunshine while planting tulip bulbs in reluctant soil. I've whispered arpeggios of sighs into a lover's gorgeous ear. I've spilled arpeggios of wafers from my Pyx onto the makeshift communion table that moments before was a grimy hospital tray. You'd think they'd be clean, but often not. So you put down a rumpled cloth to receive the arpeggio of discs with their imprinted crosses, recite arpeggios of prayer, and watch them become the body of Christ in Mr. Ed's hand, so large, so old. Pyx, arpeggio, Pyx, arpeggio. And here's another one for a friend. This is my friend Nitu, who was an undergrad when I was a graduate student, and we had a class together, and we became friends. Nitu. If her nails had been painted blue or pink, let's say, or red, would we have had coffee at Starbucks? Suppose her green nail polish hadn't been chipped, slightly chipped, and mine had not been perfect. Would she have baked cookies for me? Chocolate chip? Would the earlier and earlier December sunsets have wrapped their shadows around our tired shoulders as we read and wrote, edited and proofread? As she learned pharmacology and I wrote my first sermon about the woman's tears that washed the Savior's dusty feet? Would my sisters have adored her? Would they have mingled their laughter with hers over red wine and Stella Artois? I want to hope that all the answers to all the questions are yes and yes and yes. But who knows? As Reverend Dale always said, I have more questions than answers. But I know this: the Holy Spirit paints her tableau in chipped and perfect green nail polish. Yes and yes and yes. And this next one is for the man who cuts my hair. His name is Dale, and in a flourish of creativity, I named the poem Dale. He drives an old white Volvo, he wears a rumpled shirt, and he doesn't eat animals. That's all you really need to know, but I can tell you more, because once a month I sit for an hour in his chair, not the 50-minute hour that insurance might or might not pay for. This is the 60 or 70-minute hour, framed by generous, playful hands, careful, skillful hands, not quite young hands that might hurt in the afternoon, sometimes happy and sometimes sad hands, and his laughter is sweet and his silence is deep, and the kindness lasts for the whole month until the hair bothers my ears again, and we pretend that it's the razor, the scissors, and the shampoo I've come back for in that hour of holy hair cutting. And then we have some family ones. This one is called Jelly Jar. The last 2 roses of the season are in the jelly jar on the bookcase. The jelly jar sits next to the photo of Mother and Daddy. Mother so beautiful and young, Daddy so young and strong. The cemetery is a continent away, and I like the flowers better here anyway. Here in my house that breathes poetry, here in my home where memory and hope light the room, here where the default temperature is love, here by the photograph of Mother so young and strong, Daddy so beautiful and young. This next one is about something that really happened in the lobby of a real estate office. It's called Wearing Gold. I wear these rings every day, his gold on my thumb, her diamond, the one he gave her, on my finger. Thumb rings can be tricky, but that joint turned gnarly from years of writing everything, math problems, love letters, rent checks, class notes, even term papers, by my very human hand. After all that writing, the gnarly joint keeps the gold circling my thumb. I still grip the pencil a little too hard. Mrs. Dwyer warned about that in the 1st grade. But it takes force to tame those block letters and trap them between the lines. And these days, I clench my pencil instead of my fists, although, to be honest, sometimes both. Then, yesterday, for a moment, I gripped the hand of the woman who placed her hand next to mine in the shiny lobby where you'd think we'd pass like strangers. But she places her hand next to mine, white gold around her thumb, yellow around mine. Smiles, no words. It's my father's, I say. Yes, she says, me too. 15 days. I stop for mental arithmetic, a little pause, then say, 22 years. I can't tell her it will be much different in 22 years, so I don't. I tell her thank you, release her hand, hold her gaze. Peace, my sister, go in peace. We wear our rings every day. This one is called Sweet Peas, or A Grandmother Goes to Graduate School. All that scholarship, reading, writing, lectures, seminars, recitation, publications, splintered wooden chairs that snagged my tights in dank classrooms, all of it, it turns out, only a makeshift trellis for the sunward climb of soul vines. My soul vines, drinking Earth's mysteries from sources deeper than word or text. How many footnotes does it take to learn love? Soul vines like Hannah's sweet peas in petal-rich abundance. Hannah's sweet peas, all pastel-y in the yogurt jar vase, on the dresser in the moon-sweet room, where I sleep after kissing baby Georgie goodnight. Here, at last, I know love. Oh, here comes a good one. It's called Senora. I am not some random senora. See, His chicken and plantains are on my stove. His wine is in my glass. His chanclas are under my bed. My lipstick is on his collar. I am not some random senora. His poems are whispered in my ear. My poems are traced on his skin. His mismatched socks are in my hamper. My dog knows his footsteps. I am not some random senora. He texts me in Spanish. His heart speaks my language. My curls twist around his fingers. His laughter sets me free, and I am not some random senora. Waning crescent. 3 a.m., the smallest crescent of a waning moon and Jupiter high in the sky. I reach for you, fingers spread to lace with yours, lips parted, the secret places in my soul opened. The odds are against it, but you find me. You too, with fingers spread, lips parted, and the secret places opened in your soul. And this might be the last one. It's called Election Day. You've heard it, Regina. I wrote it in part for one of my childhood friends' mother. She doesn't show up till near the end of the poem. Her name is Mrs. Fiorentini. So here goes, Election Day. Dietary fat is good for you. Yup. You can't absorb vitamin A or E or K or D without fat. Protein builds muscles, and fiber helps you poop, but democracy runs on carbohydrates. Remember when Election Day started with pancakes at St. Mary's, and we counted the hours to spaghetti supper at St. Anthony's, where the sauce hugged the pasta with tomatoey hot passion, and you learned the meaning of al dente, in case they hadn't taught you at home? Everybody can't be Italian, unless, of course, there's a miracle, and you wake up one morning saying, buongiorno, and flinging words like amore and bambini into the grateful air, embarrassing your children ever so slightly, but who cares? Democracy runs on carbohydrates. You drizzle your pancakes with syrup that only last spring rose so hopefully in the sleepy maples. Then, while you twirl your noodles, you marvel again and again about Mrs. Fiorentini's shoe. The one Bobby Kennedy found after it slipped off her foot out there on our upstate landing field. Imagine Robert F. handing Mrs. Fiorentini her pointy-toed flat with the gold trim. We would tell that for years and years, long after we had gone home and shaken the wisps of hay out of our hair and fed the dog. Surely there are carbohydrates in Mrs. Fiorentini's dandelion wine. You can taste that wine the moment you see its golden dance in the miniature goblet. You're half drunk by the time you hold the sculpted crystal stem in your hand. You know the grass was dewy wet when Mrs. Fiorentini slipped her practiced thumb between stem and blossom all over the yellow dotted yard. Her name means little flowers, don't forget. And you know she sang every day and danced too during the weeks of that blessed fermentation. And there was anaerobic glycolysis, and there was joy, and there was music. And although I can't be sure about this, maybe for a moment, there was democracy in America. And that was what we did on Election Day in my upstate New York small town. There was pancake breakfast at St. Anthony's, and there was at St. Mary's, and then there was spaghetti supper at St. Anthony's, and that really happened about Mrs. Fiorentini's shoe and Bobby Kennedy. We have a little time, so I'm just going to read a funny one that kind of acknowledges that not all relationships need to last forever. It's called Happy. I've been happy to see the sunrise. I've been happy to greet the moon. I've been happy to smell the coffee. I've been happy to taste the wine. But man, when I opened that box and saw my old books in there, those 3 books I loaned you, I was happy like I've never been happy to see any man. I mean, dance around the kitchen happy, shout and startle the dog happy, call my sister happy, write a poem happy, tell all my friends and eat cake. People, I mean happy. You can keep my shampoo and conditioner. You can keep my curl cream and that bourbon I bought. My books are home, and I am happy like I've never been happy to see any man. And I'll end with one that's just like a love poem for the people in the room and listening in virtually. It's called Beautiful. When those people in Turkey started polishing obsidian to make mirrors 6,000 years ago, it must have seemed like a good idea at the time. But when you see how it all turned out, you have to wonder. Now everybody's making mirrors. The ad man, the makeup lady, the insecure boyfriend, the hiring agent, the ICE agent, the girlfriend's father. They've all got a mirror for you to look in. The mirror that says you're too short, too fat, too brown. The mirror that says you're too hairy, too bald, too scruffy, too sensitive, too aggressive, too shy. Everybody has a mirror for you. But, my dear ones, you don't have to look in those mirrors. Cover them, if you must, with the black crepe of mourning, or cover them with the rainbow flag of freedom. Some mirrors are bad luck even before they're broken, especially before they're broken. Prop a mountain of truth in front of some mirrors, and they'll reflect back a lie every time. A true mirror doesn't have to flatter you to show you your beauty. It simply shows you you. Don't wait until you chance upon that old photo with wild hair and blazing eyes that makes you gasp and say, "My God, I was beautiful. Too bad I didn't know it then." Don't wait for the gentle daughter to take your aging hand and whisper, "Mommy, you're so pretty." Don't wait. Find a true mirror. Look in it hard and long and deep because, my dear ones, you are beautiful now. Thank you, Linda, for making this possible.
This has been a gift. Thank you for coming. I appreciate you dearly. If you want to hear more from Donna, she's going to hang out with us with some gallery time coming up. You'll have to check it out on our calendar. It's not up yet. So do visit scarrittbennett.org online. Look for the events calendar in the menu. You'll see a lot of things happening on campus, from mealtime opportunities to another Poets Corner coming up, to the gallery that's going to have some wonderful art and presenting some more poetry and a conversation with the artists. So you don't want to miss all this great stuff coming up. Thank you again for joining us. Thank you for coming today, and go in peace.